Welcome to Bottom Up, a monthly podcast dedicated to issues and topics of interest to young lawyers in Wisconsin and beyond. I'm Emil Ovbiagele.
And I'm Kristen Hardy, and we're your hosts. This is the Bottom Up Podcast.
Well, our second guest today is none other than the most formidable, stylish attorney Erin Ogden from Ogden Glazer+Schaefer, a law firm based out of Madison. And she's also one of the founders of that firm. I've known Erin for quite some time now. I think our friendship just started on LinkedIn initially.
I think so. We started our firms kind of about the same time, and we're looking at how to do this whole wait a minute, I own a law firm thing.
Yep, I remember those days. It was wild. It was wild. But hey, congratulations. And you also served as the chair for the practice management track, or co-chair for the practice management chair.
Yeah.
Wait, I just stumbled on a co-chair position, or at least it was for a committee, and I found out that there were 3 co-chairs.
Yeah.
Can you still use the word co if you have 3 people?
Tri-chair. So it's funny you said I was just a co-chair, or I was the third one, and they asked if I wanted to renew. I'm like, and the other 2 had already said yes. And I'm like, yeah, I don't need to be. This is a bicycle, and I'm okay getting rid of the tricycle wheel of me.
Oh my God, that is funny. That's funny. Well, you served as a co-chair for the practice management track for this year's solo and small firm conference, and the theme was centered around navigating the multi-generational dynamics in the legal industry. So, I mean, tell me about the conference. Tell me what the goals were for this conference.
I think the goals for this conference were looking at the fact that we have a big spectrum with solo and small firm. A lot of times we talk about rural versus urban, or different practice groups. But another thing that we're really broad at is a big age thing and different experience levels, and even experience levels at being at a small firm. You have a lot of people that were at big firms and then coming out. So one thing that we tried to do this year that I think is new but should continue is saying, hey, which of these are foundational? Which of these are advanced? Which are these things, so people can, and not talk about being new lawyer or whatever, but more like, hey, maybe I'm branching into a new area or a new thing, and looking at that broad experience level, generational and experience-wise, and help people navigate that. And also we started a mentorship thing to help people who, when they're coming in new, who can I ask my dumb questions to?
Yeah, I know you've been very involved with this section across the years, and very involved with this conference. And so I want to thank you for all that you do. And I think during the conference, it's like an all-firm thing for you guys. Everybody is here.
Yeah.
I believe in the past I've met some of your paralegals and support staff too here. So so what about the Solo Small Firm Conference makes it so special to you?
Well, my favorite thing about this is building I did a presentation about this a few years ago, building your dream team, because when we're a small firm, you can't do everything, or at least we can't, right? We have a niche, we have a thing that we're good at. So we want to be able to build that referral network for when we have a client that has a need that we can't meet. And if they're coming to us, it's because they want to have that small firm feel, they want to have that thing, so we can be able to pull in those people. And the best way to be able to do that is to meet them. And sometimes that's a different practice area. Other times it's, I have a client that has a need up in Ashland. Who do I know there? And I'm not going to meet that person at a Milwaukee County Bar Association meeting, right? You're going to have
It's the Milwaukee Bar Association.
Oh, I knew.
MBA.
Right.
Hey, there we go. Hey, can we get a round of applause for the MBA real quick?
See, I'm dropping. I dropped it. I just did it incorrectly.
I'm joking. Keep going.
But being able to build those connections and revisit those connections with those people, because one of the nice things about this is people do come back year after year. Maybe a lot of them come back every year. Others come back every other or whatever, and so you can continue to build on those foundations and have that bit of a referral dream team when you need it.
Yeah. I was here last year, and there were times throughout the conference where I felt like I was having deja vu because I was meeting, I met the same people I met, sometimes in the same rooms or in the same, under the same context or situation, and I'm like, wait, like, why does this seem so familiar? It's because
it's the Kalahari. It's like the Bermuda Triangle.
like we did this last year. Like we were talking about this topic, and so it's pretty cool. It's one of my favorite conferences. It is my favorite conference that the State Bar puts on. It is it's smaller, obviously, than the AMC, but I just find everyone to be quite real.
We're all here for the same reason, and that's to build those relationships and build our practices.
There's no pretentiousness about it from everybody. I mean, everyone's just here really to be helped and to offer to help. And it's very down to earth. I think that was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, it's down to earth. It's authentic. People are genuinely interested in being here. You don't come here accidentally. You don't come here because you're trying to use up your pinnacle points or whatever.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
There shouldn't be any surprises when it comes to malpractice insurance. Wilmick tells you who they are, what they can do for you, and how they will do it. Malpractice insurance for Wisconsin lawyers, by Wisconsin lawyers.
What? You don't have an Ultimate Pass yet? Oh, that's a mistake. Find out why at wisbar.org/ultimatepass. Thank you. And now back to the Bottom Up Podcast.
I came here and attended with Peter and the team probably like 6 or 7 years ago, and you were presenting. Was one of the most fascinating topics, and I'm serious when I say this. It was you were talking about file naming conventions.
Well, that is exciting.
Which was a practice management issue.
Yeah.
And something that you don't think about when you're coming out of law school. What are some other things in the practice management area that young lawyers don't think about? And also with something like file naming conventions, how it differs. Emil mentioned the theme of generations and how it differs across the generations when you're talking about practice management issues.
So I think one of the things that we're seeing with generational stuff is with practice management is that it's changing, right? For law isn't known to change fast, but it is changing a lot as technology is changing. The pandemic has changed a lot of things. So all of a sudden you have things that made sense for 30 years in being in a brick and mortar office, and now we're not in those same brick and mortar offices. And you can look at things that are opportunities and challenges at once to say like, oh wait, I don't need an associate to be in my town. Other things that you're finding is that, I'm of the Gen X thing where I remember like computers starting and doing all that. And
right.
So you have kids, you have the lawyers that are graduating now that they don't remember that computers are just the thing they have. Cell phones are a thing they have. And so it's a different thing. And so sometimes we assume, oh, then they know all of this stuff because they've grown up with it, but they grew up with computers very differently than us. So we have a 17-year-old assistant that helps us with stuff, and we had to teach them how to do emails because everything is Snapchat and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, because the only thing they do emails is get assignments. It's not a mode of communication for them. Wow. And so having to realize a lot of our assumptions may not be right because just because they grew up with it doesn't mean they grew up with it the same way we grew up with it. So that's been something that's really interesting. I think legal practice management, we have to look at how is the practice changing and how the management of that is changing and the management of our people are, because the way that I am managed is not going to be the same way that someone who was born, we now have people that will be born in the 2000s. And that's very different and I'm a big fan of it. It's not in a bad way. Diversification is key, right? Because they're coming up with new things and new ideas and new ways of looking at this that we're and we do a lot of work with clients that are that age as well. So, okay, how do I talk to my clients in this way? What are they expecting? If I'm emailing a client and they're like, whoa,
Right.
what's this?
Yeah.
Or, you text them first before you call.
Yeah.
Having that understanding, and the people who are going to tell me that are my staff more than, anything else, if you're listening.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of good content in there in what you just said. As you were speaking, I was laughing. I have this canon ability to relate with lawyers across different generations, and you were talking about. I think I'm a millennial.
You're
Is that a
probably more. Yeah,
what's that?
it's
Is
below
that-
me.
Okay.
You're below me.
But
No, that's
here-
the generation. Right, I'm on the cusp.
But here's the beautiful thing about growing up in a third world country. Because we're always about 10 years behind on technological advancements, I can relate so much to, I wrote all of my high school papers with a pen, English essays with a pen. Didn't write an exam throughout high school with a computer, ever. And it was so bad not bad, but I remember when I would come to the States, let's say for summer break, to come visit my cousins, and I'd hear a new song. And I go back and I tell my friends, I'm like, hey, I just came back from America and Nelly just released Dilemma with Kelly Rowland and it's dope. And they're like, what are you talking about, whatever, right?
You'll know in like 5 years, don't worry.
And then 4 years ago, or 4 years after, 5 years, like, hey, have you heard the new song? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad it's here now. I'm glad you finally think it's great. But I've the reason I mentioned that is I've been able to leverage. Somebody look at that and say, oh, yeah, well, that's kind of sad. But for me, I'm like, hey, it's an advantage. It gives me a perspective and a way to relate with folks across that. And also just, utilize, and I tell people this, I may not have lived in my father's generations, but I listen to their stories. I listen to the things that they went through, and I can relate with that. And so some of the things we need, at least for the younger generation, I think we sometimes have. We just need to dig a little deeper because there will always be differences, from generational differences to demographic differences to gender differences. It's all about finding ways to bridge that gap.
Right. Every generation considers the next generation it's going wrong or they're doing it wrong, right? And every generation is like, why are they so slow? And so to realize that everyone has one exceptions and two has advantages and disadvantages. And if once you have that open dialogue and open to see where that is, it makes everything better, right? This is why diversity is important, regardless if you're talking race, economics, age, whatever, because those different perspectives is only going to enhance the experience and allow you to talk to your clients also in a better way. Because I'm not going to say I only take Gen Z clients or I only take Gen X clients or I only take because that's not a good business model for us.
Absolutely, and I think this is very timely. You mentioned the D word, right? The diversity, and I know it for some reason has been getting people really excited or unexcited, depending on who you ask. But it's been the pushbacks that we're seeing, and this is not just at the bar level or not bar level, the bar isn't pushing against, but at the industry level, we're also seeing this statewide, we're seeing this nationally. It's been very confusing to me because when I think of diversifying a profession or I think of DEIA, I think of it as tools for cultural competency. And there is a business case for cultural competency in a world where, in a country and in a world that's increasingly more diverse in terms of demographics, in terms of socioeconomic status. And it's like, why is there so much pushback to understanding how to deal with these different facets of our potential clientele base?
I'm the wrong person to ask because I don't know. I don't get it because I will say that for us, if I only had clients that were exactly me, how boring would that be? Like, part of what I love about our practice is we get to work with a lot of interesting businesses and a lot of different things. And so to have the same ones would be painful. And then to be able to actually help them by understanding where they're going and what they're doing is even better. And I think that's one thing that our legal practice management thing is, sometimes we have conversations about file conventions. Sometimes we have them about cultural competency. Sometimes we have it about, staffing. And I think that's one thing that we every year try and look at is we might have a theme, but the theme is how do we make our practices better? And so this year we have, time management stuff. We have, and that time management, I don't care who you are, you need to do it better, right?
Yeah.
On every level. Tomorrow I'm talking about goal setting, and I think every age group is something that you need to be working on.
Yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Help safeguard your family's financial future and leave a legacy you can be proud of. State Bar of Wisconsin members have fast and easy access to reliable term life insurance. Coverage is issued by the Prudential Insurance Company of America. To learn more, visit wisbar.memberenroll.com.
Hi, Russell Nicolay here with Nicolay Law, Accident and Injury Lawyers. If you have clients that have been injured, my office would love the opportunity to help them get compensated and get their life back on track. We handle referrals and co-counsel relationships on injury cases all across Wisconsin.
Thank you. And now back to the Bottom Up Podcast.
Well, I'm not going to let you go until we discuss a recent revelation and secret you just came clean on.
I don't think this
We've
is
known
a
you for
secret.
such a long. We've known you for such a long time. Even Joe didn't even know this. Or did Joe?
I knew, but
Okay.
it took me a while to figure it out.
Oh, geez. So I just found out that you are also married to your business partner and one of the other founders of your firm, Jeff Glazer. And I know Jeff, and I've sat on panels with Jeff, and I know you. And I think we sat on panels together. We talked in the past, and I've talked with him, and it's never come up that and I was like, "You guys are married." You said that today. I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know that." So how is it like having a firm or starting a firm and running a firm with a spouse? That's a dynamic that we don't talk about often.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is something we talk about in our firm, kind of in general, though, is knowing your lanes, right? Knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're not good at, and letting them do what that is. And I think that becomes especially important if whether it's your spouse or there's a lot of people here that are parent-child ones or siblings that know what you are, and then let that be, right? You can't, because you can second guess and you can do all that, and it can be really frustrating if that's the case, and it can be hard on staff, just like it'd be anything else, if you are always doing that. Another thing you have to do is know when you're in work mode and when you're home,
Yeah.
right? Don't take the work fights home. Don't take the home fights to work.
So I have to share this.
Oh, I was just going to say, I wanted to know if your lane is bigger than Jeff's lane.
Yes, because Jeff's at UW.
Oh, that's right.
So at the firm, it is because I'm at the firm full time. I'm doing a lot of stuff. So that's something that we had to discuss, right? Because Jeff comes with a lot of great experience, a lot of great. Like we were joking earlier about having MBA words. He has all the MBA words, right? So he has to do a good job of knowing when he should be part of it and when he's not, and we have to be good at not trying to pull him in on too much as well, because there's only so much time in his day, and he's a Dane County supervisor and a law professor and and so knowing what the role is and not expanding it and not contracting it too much is really important. And I think that's true for, to go with kind of practice management, everybody here is not everyone, a lot of people have business partners, right? Yeah. And a lot of the time you spend more time with your business partner than you do your spouse. So a lot of those same rules can apply.
And if you want to learn more about Jeff Glazer, open the October issue of Wisconsin Magazine.
Yes, fantastic individual too. We got to get him on a show one of these days. But what you just said reminded me of something that I hadn't thought about in a while. So my father was an oral surgeon who also had a dental practice, and when he started his dental practice, my mother was the first dental assistant that worked with him. And my dad had a very particular way in which he liked his tools being, kept and washed and presented to him during dental procedures. And every now and then, my mom would slip up and not do it to his liking, and So he's in the middle of a procedure, and he probably, either say in a very contrite way or straightforward way, like, why isn't this done the same way? I wasn't in those rooms. But anyways, I do oftentimes remember that I'm coming back home, and my mom would say things like, okay, Victor, if you ever talk to me like that again at work, at home, you're going to be in trouble.
Right? But knowing that, like...
But it was, yes, doctor. Like, you couldn't tell that my parents were married when they were... It was very discombobulating at times. But it's beautiful. It's great. It's
knowing what role you're at. And because, it inevitably is going to bleed.
Yeah.
Right? But... knowing when that is in saying, okay, that's okay at work, that's not okay at home, or that's okay at home, that's not okay at work.
Yeah.
Our fights at work sound different than our fights at home.
Well, I'm not going to also leave you without asking what books you're currently reading, because I know you're an avid reader. Once upon a time, you used to have a book digest.
I was just telling someone I need to start that up again, because, if something's working, you should totally stop doing it. So I need to redo that. I was just finished my book last night. So I just finished the Lincoln Highway for my fiction books. So I'm going to be...
Your nonfiction's emotional intelligence, right?
So the one that I have emotional intelligence, and the next on my list is Attraction, which is about the entrepreneurial operating system. We do business law. I'm a business owner, so those kinds of books really
Makes sense.
get in my way. But my next fiction book was going to be Poisonwood Bible.
It's not going to be Yellowface like I suggested to you?
Suggested, but dude, I got a queue, man. The recommendation moved it up in the queue, but it is not all the way up to number one yet.
Oh, that's amazing. Sounds like that's how you fill your cup. Any parting words for younger lawyers or lawyers across the state or souls in small firms?
I think one of the things that I always try and say is own it, right? Own that this is yours, which is both know that no one else is going to own it for you. This is your business, but also that it's okay. That one thing that I was so surprised about is that I had all of these ideas that I get surprised. I'm like, oh my gosh, my idea worked, right? So be okay to try those ideas. Be okay to do that, because you get to do that now. No one's going to tell you no. So be willing to own that. And we had a thing on the quality of life track that maybe Aiden will talk about with imposter syndrome and how that can be very real for some people, but it doesn't have to tear you down. But also, it's okay if you don't have the same imposter syndrome, right? Because sometimes people are like, oh, am I supposed to feel worse? And so just be really willing to kind of own yourself. And the more confidence you have in this, it feeds on itself. It's a feedback loop, and it can either be a positive one or a negative one. So work on making it that positive feedback loop, and you will find a lot of open doors, especially with having that nimble small firm.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for all that you do at the State Bar. It was something.
No, I just want to say thanks, Erin Ogden, for being with us, and let's give it up for Erin.
Stay stylish.
We'll be right back.
And now, a word from our sponsors. Would you like to implement new efficiencies into your law practice but don't know where to begin? Practice 411, the State Bar of Wisconsin's Law Office Management Assistance Program, is the place to start. Don't wait. Contact Practice 411 today for a complimentary and confidential consultation at 1-800-957-4670. Thank you. And now back to the Bottom Up Podcast.
All right, we are back with Brent Hoeft. Brent, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Brent is the new Practice 411 practice management advisor at the State Bar of Wisconsin. Just started last week, is that correct?
Yeah, Monday.
Okay. But Brent is no stranger to solo and small firms. He was a solo for quite some time before taking on the job at the State Bar. I remember when I was a legal writer, probably a decade ago, writing about Brent's practice. He was doing virtual law practice probably before anyone.
Oh wow!
And so he's.
I think I remember this article.
Do you remember? It was one of my first articles when I started.
I think I do remember this article. That it would have to have been like in 2014, 2015.
It was probably even earlier than that.
Yeah, I think it was a little because I started in 2010, so 1 or 2 years we didn't start, I believe it was.
I didn't read that.
And so
I started reading Wisconsin law.
Right. So Brent has had his hand on the technology pulse for a long time, which makes him such a great asset now for the bar as the practice 411 manager. And so Brent, and he's also at the Solo and Small Firm Conference, he is the co-chair of the technology track. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. Brent, it's great having you here. So in terms of technology, I think some people view it as such a scary topic. Yeah. First of all, it's always changing. Mm-hmm. It's constantly changing. And so there's such a steep learning curve, and it's like when attorneys are trying to figure out how to navigate the technology issues, where do you start?
Yeah, it's hard. Attorneys, we're a risk-adverse group to begin with. Whether we're born that way, where we can see all the things could possibly go wrong, and we want to plan for it, or whether it's from our education or whatever it is, it's a risk-averse group. So they're never going to be the early adopters in anything. They're not going to be the ones that jump in and test out the route, and that's good. That's good. We have a heightened duty than other areas, businesses that can just kind of try things, and not that big a deal because they don't have the professional ethical responsibilities. The technology, and the pace at which it's increasing, even from when I first started, it's picked up, and it feels like it's picked up in the last 6 months with the AI side of things. It's happening so quickly. It seems like the legal tech industry has adopted it so quickly, which isn't always the case. It's often a trickle-down effect that, there's a lot of you get some of the Microsofts of the world, and then, slowly they start, Google tries some things, and then it trickles to the legal industry. But this is different. Like, this is kind of a different animal right now, and which is kind of exciting because a lot of the times the biggest concern is when attorneys use technology and don't fully understand the overall use of it, that they're not doing it securely, they're maybe just don't learn it deeply enough to understand the tool, and then it can do more harm than good sometimes. A nice thing that with the AI coming out and having it being adopted by the actual legal tech industry is that these things, they understand the heightened requirements that attorneys have. So you're able to be a little bit, you can tell them to be a little bit more, go out and explore, go into, as you see things get released into practice management software, into legal research software. That may be the good spot to do some playing, some learning on what this could do to save some unbelievable amounts of time, efficiencies, generate things that you'd never thought possible that could be generated in the fraction of the time than in the past. So it's a really exciting time right now, but it's going to require a lot of guidance at the same time. So a great way for some guidance is, one, you can give me a call, Practice 411. It's a great place to get consultations. Ask those questions. We're interested in this. We're interested in AI and maybe how it can help our firm. Where should we start? And I can definitely, direct you through, especially it's never going to be, technology will never be a one size fits all. There's not a perfect system out there. There's a good system for your situation. So, where somebody might benefit from a practice management system like a Clio, where it integrates with a whole bunch of stuff, but others might just want a full-featured system that kind of delivers everything all in one clean package. So it's really up to how you practice, and that's where I can kind of guide you along and point you in the right direction with resources and stuff.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Hi, Russell Nicolay here with Nicolay Law, Accident and Injury Lawyers. If you have clients that have been injured, my office would love the opportunity to help them get compensated and get their life back on track. We handle referrals and co-counsel relationships on injury cases all across Wisconsin.
Help safeguard your family's financial future and leave a legacy you can be proud of. State Bar of Wisconsin members have fast and easy access to reliable term life insurance. Coverage is issued by the Prudential Insurance Company of America. To learn more, visit wisbar.memberenroll.com.
Emil, I'm interested in, when you started your firm, was technology something that you thought about, or was it something you had to start thinking about, or what was how did you approach technology when you started your firm?
It was something that I thought about at the jump. I knew at least by the time I started my practice, my firm so I started my firm, I think, in 2016. I think that maybe there were still people who weren't using practice management software, but I started mine with a practice management software. I understood the importance of it. And, maybe it's because of the generation I'm part of, right? And, the theme of this conference was, sort of navigating this multi-generational divide. And so I knew that it was central and it was key to what we were doing. And the very mission statement of my firm is to positively redefine the way businesses and people view and use legal services. And so there was an innovative component to it. So if we wanted to be seen as innovative, we needed to be doing innovative things. And that meant incorporating technology very early on.
Yeah. So, Brent, one of the, as Emil mentioned, one of the themes for the conference is the generations and the differences. How do you see the difference among obviously older generations aren't as familiar with the technology younger generations are, but where do you see the differences right now when you have lawyers who are looking at things differently, or how they use it with clients and in their firms, and what do you tell them based on their different time periods of age?
Yeah. What I see is the older attorneys are concerned with how am I going to keep up with change, that I know other firms are going to use this. So what do I need to know to at least not completely, miss the boat on this? And so with them, it's always a discussion about what this can do for you in terms of how you've always done things. Maybe it can change and save amount of time that you would never imagine. But with them, it's always it's a slower process because they're more apprehensive with just technology in general. In one of my cybersecurity talks, I start out with kind of an interesting statistic that baby boomers versus Gen X, Gen Zs, who is the more concerned generation with cybersecurity? And everyone would think, well, it's the ones that are using technology. It's the ones that grew up with. No, it's the baby boomer generation that are better at security, and it's because they're more leery of it. The younger generation grew up with it, so they trust it. They're more relaxed with it.
It sort of reminds me of when, I don't know if you remember this, was it last year, 2 years ago, with the AI generative pictures of profile pictures on Facebook and all that. And I guess the old soul in me goes, because initially it just seemed a little dubious. And then I'm like, oh, I see what's going on here. They're just tricking you to get your information for free, which will later on be used, right? Think about this. It was sold as this cool thing, right? We could, you put it's literally taken, mapping your face. So for every company that you use, they have a map. Hypothetically, yes, they do have the features to have you to open up your phone if your phone or your iPhone is used. You open up your face or whatever, and I was a little concerned that people weren't more leery of that, and that's some healthy skepticism. And so when you talk about this dynamic within the workplace, first I like to avoid generalizations, but I think that these different generations, even on the issue of technology, bring very important things to the table. So yes, the young generation, it might be perceived the younger generation might adapt or be more adaptive with technology. That's something that's good. And older generations might be more leery of it. That's something that's good. So we need to, have these conversations and also see the benefits of being leery about technology. I mean, a lot of people gave away their facial recognitions, characteristics for free to companies they don't even know the name of.
Right, and that's that comfort level of it's kind of a fun thing. It's a fun online thing we can do together, and kind of just it's no big deal.
Yeah, the funny statements like when you tell someone, hey, use a VPN, your phone might be hacked or has been hacked by the government, and they go like, yeah, don't they have everything already?
right, yeah.
And until to someone who's been practicing for longer, they're like, what are you talking about? You should be concerned of that. Right. I think it's interesting.
It is. It's an interesting dynamic, and to your question, Joe, you have that younger generation with the comfort, and they have the tech savviness, but they may be a little too comfortable and relaxed, and especially with privacy and what you put out there on the internet. So you kind of have to rein that back and use their strength of we are tech savvy, and we can give that strength to the law firm, and the older generations in the law firm can learn from that tech savviness and maybe temper that
enthusiasm.
More relaxed. Yeah, okay,
we
that all
ask some
looks
questions
great.
first before we jump into
let's
this.
just slow down a little, but at the same time have that curiosity that they're showing, because it's going to get quicker. We're still in that kind of, it's the dawn of all of this, really. There's not a lot of guardrails. There's going to be regulation at some point. Knowing government, some of it may work, a lot of it's not going to make sense, So we're just in that early stage of kind of feeling our way, how much do we get into it? And so I think getting into it will be good, and I think, but treading lightly into it, and starting with that legal industry specific, I think is the way for lawyers to start. Yeah.
Well, you've been coming to this conference for a long time now, right?
Yeah.
And in the time that every year, what are some of the common questions on technology that you hear year after year?
The biggest one that we always try to address is when we have, it's hard with technology because you have such a wide gambit of understanding. You have people that, it's as tech 101 as possible. And then you have others that are would be bored sitting there listening for half of a talk. So it's very hard for us to kind of orchestrate a track, but we're cognizant of that, and we appreciate that there is a very wide gap there. So we always try to have some considerations, technology considerations for starting your law practice. So a very 101, here are the essential things. If you're getting into it, or even if your practice just trying to transition a little bit into implementing more technology, where are the places you should start? The sessions that have a thing I can take away and do right now with stuff I already have. So a lot of that is focus on Microsoft, the 365 suite, because almost everybody operates under that. And so we try to have sessions that how to use the technology you already have better and to a fuller extent, and take advantage of things that are in those packages that you might not even know exist because you haven't had the time to kind of poke around and experiment yourself, and also how to use them more securely. So this year we had securing Microsoft 365. So how do you securely set up so you can set user authorization access? How to figure out does everybody need access to this level or that level? Who's an administrator? Is there more than one administrator? Because what if something happens to the person who's the administrator? Then who can get in? Thinking through those types of things, and then of course we always want those things that you didn't know existed, and we try to work some of that into with the 50 tips section. Quick hitting, these things exist, so they're out there. If it's a thing that sounds like it might be something that could help your firm, they're there and exist, and we can give you links and resources to investigate that stuff. We try to go through it and look at what they can take away, and then next week go to their law firm and sit down and implement 1, 2, or 3 things that they just learned. And beyond that, take resources from the written materials and maybe take a deeper dive in something that this is one thing I know we got to concentrate on. This is going to be a year, we're going to keep focusing in this and figure this out by the end of the year, and able to take those resources and get a good start there. So we want to cover everything. It's hard to do, and we usually hear back, that was a great session, but is there a session that's just a little simpler that, talked a little easier terms? So we always hear that. It's always a very, very hard thing to get the right amount of sophistication.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
There shouldn't be any surprises when it comes to malpractice insurance. Wilmick tells you who they are, what they can do for you, and how they will do it. Malpractice insurance for Wisconsin lawyers by Wisconsin lawyers.
In these uncertain economic times, the State Bar of Wisconsin wants to make sure that you and your practice have the best available tools. Ultimate Pass and Books Unbound are available for purchase using 6-month installment plans. Contact our customer service team at 1-800-728-7788 for more information. Thank you, and now back to the Bottom Up Podcast.
I wanted to ask you, is it difficult to practice law on a Mac?
No,
Yes.
not anymore.
Not anymore?
Not
Did
anymore.
did you try?
Because of Office, so I had the Office 365 issues. I started off with a Mac, and it got to a point where I just couldn't. My IT folks are like, "Hey, yeah, you're going to have to change from a Mac to a PC to unleash the full potentials of Office 365." At least back then, I think some changes have been made.
Yeah, it's a lot better now, and that's where.
Is there an antitrust lawsuit about this? I think there was a lawsuit about this.
Yeah, because it was such a different feature set that was allowed on the two different platforms. I believe you're right on that. The cloud has so many services now being on a cloud platform has really enabled that. Like really any device, even a Chromebook that's not a very powerful device, if it can get onto the internet, it can, operate most of your law firm apps, your law practice management apps, your 365, and so you can get started on a Mac. Macs can be a little bit more secure in terms of just there's not the sheer amount of viruses of ransomware designed for Mac. And that's not to say you can't get them, because then there's the other side where people are like, well, we're a Mac, we don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Like, no, that's not.
Like
better doesn't mean the best. Like you're done and you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, it definitely can. It has opened up a lot of doors and ability to practice in so many different ways now.
So there is. So back to Joe's question.
Yeah.
I know I chimed in with my 2014 information. In recent times, is there a significant advantage for those trying to run practice management softwares and other like office-related softwares on a Mac versus on a PC versus a Mac?
Yeah, there is, as far as what I've seen out there is really no difference, because so much of it, if you have a browser, whatever your web browser is, it doesn't really matter what the hardware is behind it. Of course, there still are exceptions that, it's a cloud platform, but then you download it a little bit like 365, where like you can access all this stuff in the cloud, but it's often a little bit slimmed down version of it. But in terms of practice management software, though, like those they can all run on anything with the browser and through their apps on their phone, which is great, and it allows lawyers to capture time while they're mobile, on a phone call at a conference, and make sure you get your time logged in, and stuff like that, where it's just the pandemic pushed the risk-adverse legal industry into how do we continue our livelihood? How do we continue representing clients? What stuff is out there? And it made them make that leap. It pushed them out of the comfort zone, because now we have to figure something out. And a lot of it stuck, and a lot of more people became more comfortable with Zoom or any video conferencing. That became much more acceptable, and a lot of times it is quicker and easier and makes more sense to just jump on a video call, and you accomplish more, and people found that out. There's other use cases that isn't the greatest way to do it. So, it allowed us to learn about what's out there and have that better way possibly to do something. Open the eyes a little bit and take a look.
And now, a word from our sponsors. Are you struggling with work-life balance issues? Could you use some help addressing these challenges? WISLAP offers confidential well-being support to lawyers, judges, and law students. With trained peer volunteers, structured well-being resources, and individualized support services, WISLAP aims to foster work-life balance within the Wisconsin legal community. Find us on the web at wisbar.org/WISLAP. Can't find the time to attend a seminar, but want the course materials as a reference? State Bar Wisconsin Pinnacle now offers PDF downloads of most seminar materials. Check it out today at wisbar.org/seminars. Thank you, and now back to the Bottom Up Podcast.
What are some legal trends or tools that you're excited about and think people should pay attention to or try? I'll start to give you an example.
Yeah.
I recently obtained a new laptop, and this thing has been a game changer. I feel like I should get paid by Lenovo after I say this. I just got a Yoga Book 9i dual screen laptop. So I am on the go a lot. I'm very nimble. My practice is very nimble. And one of the things I oftentimes miss when I work on my laptop is the limited 13-inch screen, right? And I don't like carrying around a bulky laptop. So Lenovo released a laptop, I believe, in July this year. It's called the Yoga Book 9i or i9 dual screen, where it has, you're talking 2 separate screens. It's a dual screen laptop and 2 separate 13-inch laptop screens. It comes with an actual keyboard, but it also has the second screen can also be an on-screen keyboard with the haptic feel and sound. It makes it feel like you can put it in landscape mode. You can put it is revolutionary.
Wow.
And so I think this is the first. There have been other attempts by companies to do a dual screen laptop or a bigger screen laptop, and or the folding laptops, they just have not been as good. I think that this is going to open up a spate of innovation in this space, because what I can now do at home is I no longer need a desktop at home, because literally at a point in time, I have 2 13-inch screens. And I think more companies are going to come up with products of this range, which will increase productivity.
Did you get for your other attorneys in the firm?
Sam and I, my partner, we got it. So we're testing it out, at least as we're told the rest of the team. but just, I mean, we're very nimble. So everyone at the firm, from lawyers to paralegals, they all have their laptops. They all have a tablet. We've always leaned into technology as a way to the job. For example, I got this iPad Pro, which I primarily use as a yellow legal pad. The only reason I'm not doing that today is because I didn't want to bring my laptop, so I instead attached the keyboard to it. But normally, I don't even have the keyboard. This is my yellow legal pad. I have good notes on here. It's limited piles of yellow legal stacks in my office, and I can find my notes. I put the paper-like screen on top of it. It makes it feel and it writes like I'm writing on actual paper. Revolutionary. I mean, you just have to lean into it. Technology is not the enemy. It's the way. It's a tool.
Yeah.
It could be good. It could be bad. It depends on what you use for it. But I think you just can't ignore the changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Brent, before we let you go here, can you just tell us a little more about the Practice 411 program for those who may not know that it exists or what it's about?
Yeah. So it's a really great program. There's an email address. You can give me a call, direct line. I pick up. You have a tech question. You have a law practice question. You have a personnel management question, a trust accounting question. We cover everything practice related. And if it's just something that's on your mind, and maybe you've done a search on the internet and you just got a ton of information thrown back at you, like, well, what do I do with that? That's like too much information now. Just give me a call. We'll walk you through some stuff. If it's a little bit more complicated question, I'll do some research for you, get back to you, point you in the right direction on how to get rolling with anything practice management related. So we have our website where we have a bunch of resources on there for you that you can check on there if you want to before giving a call. If it's not there, give me a call, shoot me an email, and we'll figure that out. It all comes from your dues. No additional fees will be applied to it. It's just part of the service, and so you might as well take advantage because it's included.
That's great. Well, Brent, we're real excited to have you on board. Let's see if there's anything else. We'll wrap it up with Brent here.
Thanks you very much.
Thanks for checking in with us, Brent. Give it up for Brent.
Congratulations on the new position.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Brent.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. If you have a topic you'd like us to explore, let us know. I'm your host, Emil Ovbiagele, and we'll catch you next time.